and I'd like to begin by warmly and wholeheartedly endorsing the Committee's report and all of its recommendations that it contains. Sadly, crisis pregnancies are an everyday reality for women in Ireland. It's something we just have to face up to. So far, the debate here has been characterised by kindness, care and compassion. I hope that continues in the weeks and months ahead. Speaking about the deep divide that existed between different positions people hold dearly and sincerely on this most sensitive of matters, Nuala Fhuileáin once insightfully wrote, "There would be no abortion in any of our utopias." With that unifying thought in mind, I think it's important that we remember there are practical things we can and should and must do to prevent crisis pregnancies ever happening in the first place. I particularly welcome the Committee's ancillary recommendations which call for a full and frank review of sex education, free contraception for all and improved counselling for pregnant women. Did you know, for example, that vasectomies cost €400, putting them beyond the reach of many families? These procedures, as well as contraception, must be free if we are to prevent crisis pregnancies. I'm also glad to see the Committee has called for the decriminalisation of abortion. It is not okay that women in Ireland today who end a pregnancy that was the result of rape face a longer prison sentence than the men who raped them. Implementing the ancillary recommendations in full will go in some way to reducing the number of crisis pregnancies and the number of women seeking abortion in Ireland. That said, there will always be women who need abortion services for one reason or another. Therefore, I welcome the recommendation by the Committee that Article 43.3 be simply repealed in full. The Constitution was never the right place to regulate and control women's unique ability to reproduce. We should never have been pitted legally against our own bodies. Our beautiful fertility should be a cause of celebration, a blessing, not a source of fear, anxiety, or even death, or a locus of intense state control, intrusion and stigma for women. We have been powerfully and painfully reminded about that control, that intrusion, that stigma again yesterday by Joanne Hayes. I lived in Tralee during the Tribunal of Inquiry into the Gardaí's investigation of what became known as the Kerry Babies case. But the inquiry into the actions of the Gardaí became an inquiry into Joanne herself, the woman who had children outside wedlock, an early expression of an oppressive state in operation against women within the year of putting the 8th Amendment into the Irish Constitution. It is telling that no international human rights treaty recognises the rights of the unborn as equal to those of the mother. Furthermore, the 8th Amendment just doesn't stop Irish women having abortions. It stops Irish women having legal abortions in Ireland. This is backed up by evidence from the Guttmacher Institute, who set out that the rate of abortion in countries with highly restrictive abortion laws is roughly comparable with that in countries with more liberal frameworks. There is no evidence that the laws influence the number of abortions or indeed eliminate them. Between 1970 and 2016, at least 184,000 Irish women travelled to England and Wales to access abortion in a clinic. These women are politicians, doctors, teachers, nurses, waitresses, factory workers and full-time carers. They are our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, friends and work colleagues. They are people we know, people we love, women we let down. I'm glad to see the Committee has recommended the termination of pregnancy should be lawful where the life or health, mental or physical, is at risk, and the gestational limits should be guided by the best available medical evidence. This call that no distinction should be drawn between the physical and mental health of women was echoed by 72% of the Citizens' Assembly. I'm relieved to see the Committee's report is very clear on the issue of disability. As many of you know, I worked for many years in the disability sector as Chief Executive of an organisation that provided supports to people with intellectual disabilities in Cork. Supporting people with disabilities to live life to the full is something that I care deeply about and is close to my heart. It is a red herring and a distraction to say, as some might, that a repeal of the 8th Amendment will allow abortion on the grounds of disability. The Committee's report is crystal clear in this regard, and I quote, "The Committee recommends that the law should not provide for the termination of pregnancy on the grounds that the unborn child has a significant fetal abnormality, where such an abnormality is not likely to result in death before or shortly after birth, while allowing for cases where, sadly, the unborn will not survive. I think this is the right approach. We need to deal with what happens where there is fetal abnormality with the utmost care and the utmost compassion. These are tragic cases and the parents deserve our support. I also welcome that the committee's report is recommending the law be amended to allow a termination of pregnancy with no restriction as to reason in a GP-led service up to 12 weeks. Women have abortions for lots of reasons, sometimes for more than one. We heard during the debates on the domestic violence bill the scale of domestic abuse in Ireland. We know that thousands of women live in consistent poverty. We know too that many women are raped or abused. We know that tragically many pregnancies don't develop as planned. We know that too that many women up and down the country face difficult daily lives. All of these horrific hardships provide reasons why someone might want to end a pregnancy early on. Open access up to 12 weeks allows the 17-year-old rape survivor to end pregnancy without having to recount the horror that she endured. Open access up to 12 weeks allowed the pregnancy conceived by incest end with care and compassion. Open access up to 12 weeks allows the woman whose fetus has a fatal abnormality access the service she needs, close to home. Ask yourself this. If open access to abortion had existed, might Anne Lovett have died alone in that cold, dark grotto in 1984? Would Savita Halappanavar still be alive? Would the beaten-down mother of 7 have gone ahead with that 8th or 9th pregnancy? Our ban on abortion has a cruel legacy. It has left some women damaged. It has left those forced to travel feeling desperate and devastated. It has left other women dead. I would like to pay tribute to the members of the committee who worked incredibly hard on a sensitive and difficult matter over a long number of months. I followed the proceedings very closely and saw at first hand the effort and energy that the members put in. In particular, I would like to pay tribute to Senator Noon, who was a formidable and a very, very fair chair. I would also like to pay tribute to Senator Ruane from my own group. She allowed her knowledge, her passion and her grit on this issue and ensured that our group was kept informed and involved throughout. I know too that there were deeply held and divided opinions on the committee. I want to pay tribute to the members that went into the committee room with an open mind, who were willing to listen to the arguments presented, who were willing to change what might have been long-held beliefs, people who thought long and hard, who gave consideration to the difficult journeys endured by many women, and who said, we can't allow this as a country for the next generation. From the bottom of my heart and on behalf of women up and down the country, I thank you. My engagement with this issue started in 1983, aged 21, when I voted against the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. At the time, a crisis pregnancy was a very real possibility for me. Access to contraception in Cork was a real challenge. Being spotted coming out of the clinic on Tuckey Street with pills or condoms, if you were lucky enough to get them, was not what you wanted your neighbours to see. I was fortunate. My many scares didn't result in a pregnancy. I still remember the relief when my late period arrived. With no job and few prospects, I was not economically and certainly not psychologically ready for motherhood. Friends and acquaintances in the same situation were not so lucky. Some took a difficult decision and faced the lonely journey to London. Some went with their boyfriends, others travelled alone, coming home to families that didn't know or wouldn't understand, may still not know. When I emigrated to London, my friends and I joined the Irish Women's Abortion Support Group, and my colleague here, Senator Batchik, was also a member. A group set up to support Irish women who travelled to the UK for an abortion. We took reversed phone calls from women calling from payphones in deepest rural Ireland. We met women at train stations. Sometimes it was their first time out of the country. We were a friendly face and a familiar accent for women in a big and strange city, making a tough choice. At the time, most women in Ireland didn't realise what a crisis pregnancy meant for women. Now 56, the fear of a crisis pregnancy no longer looms large in my life. In the 35 years that have passed since the 8th Amendment was approved, the situation hasn't gotten much better. Women still aren't getting the support they need for the choices they make. Contraception still isn't freely available. Sex education in schools is being curtailed by religious ethos. We still turn a blind eye to the estimated 4,000 women who travel for an abortion each year. We make criminals of the women who buy abortion pills online. We put their health at risk by denying them access to the medical supervision they need. We threaten doctors and others with 14 years in prison if they dare to help. Ignoring or avoiding the issue doesn't make crisis pregnancies go away. I would be so proud to see us finally face up to the full realities of crisis pregnancy for all our daughters. Let's give them the power, privacy and proper health care they need. This includes good sex education, free contraception and access to safe legal abortion in Ireland. I'm encouraged that the committee's report has echoed the calls of the Citizens' Assembly and the thousands of us who marched for repeal last September. collectively here in this House, in radio stations and at dinner tables up and down the country, we must now have the courage to have the thoughtful reflections about this public issue that is ultimately a very private matter. Motherhood.
It's good to finish now, Senator.
I've waited 35 years and I'm only 2 pages off.
I understand that.
I'm just 2 seconds.
In fairness to everybody else, Senator.
Thank you. And literally, motherhood, when it came freely chosen by me, has been the very best role I have ever had, by far. And my daughter is here tonight. Exhilarating, exhausting, exciting and joyous. My daughter and my son have given me so much challenge, learning and love. And when I think of my lovely daughter, who's now a young woman, I see in her the attributes of somebody who would be a wonderful mother, if that is what she chooses, when the time is right for her, as it was for me when I had her, a wanted child. I think too of my niece and all my daughter's friends and all the young women I walk beside in September. What I want for them, and hope you can support, is becoming an Ireland where women, including women of childbearing age, are treated with respect. Their health, bodily autonomy and choice is respected and protected, including the gift of motherhood.
Senator, I really have to ask you to finish up now, and I'm sorry. She can have your time, fair enough.
Repealing the 8th Amendment to the Constitution is a start of making Ireland that kind of country for women a reality denied to so many of us for so long. So, I hope the question that is before us, it is not about whether we think abortion is right or wrong. The question is whether or not you think that decision should be left up to the women with the advice and support of her doctor to hand. I truly believe it should, and I hope the majority of you in this House will join me to allow referendum for the people to decide the time has come. Thank you so much, everybody.
Order. Please. Senator Buttimer, you have 10 minutes.